Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Andana Brajajana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachadi Tira Vanacha Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhati Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parividagacharya Astatara Satasisi Madhis Divine Grace Easy Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. If you have one of these things, everyone has one, make sure it's off and vibrate, please. We're continuing with Chapter 8 of Canto 4, story of Dhruva Maharaj. And what we heard in the previous session was the great determination against all odds for Dhruva. Narada tested him. Dhruva responded. Narada gave some transcendental instruction, transcendental knowledge instruction. He gave a means of going beyond the delusion of happiness and distress that comes as part of the territory with this world of duality. However, it required receiving, and Dhruva wasn't able, he said, because his heart was broken by the strong words of his stepmother. And like a pot that's broken, it doesn't hold water or anything. So he was respecting Narada and the words of Narada and made this appeal, just like the sun travels in the sky, giving its benedicting rays to everyone. So I'm part of everyone. Please, you're like that. Please give your benediction to me. Specifically so that I can have my desire fulfilled. Material, although it may be material. And not with the right mood, but it's my desire. So please give me the sadhu marg, the proper means, the righteous means, the honest means, the elevated means to get the mercy of Krishna, so that I can fulfill this desire. And what's that desire? Better than my father, better than my father's father, better than my father's father's father. I want a kingdom. I want a kingdom. And my mother said, only Vishnu can give you that kingdom, so you better get Vishnu's mercy. Can you teach me how to get Vishnu's mercy? So that's where we ended up. The sense that his mother had and the sense that Narada had, and after, I was thinking about this, just like, I don't know if any of you have been to an Ayurvedic physician, but there's a general protocol or procedure they follow. They ask you, where does it hurt, basically? What have you come to see me for? What's the ailment? They listen to the patient. So they're getting the oral report, and then, a little bit of medical history and all that. Then the pulse, so he was taking Dhruva's pulse. Sure enough, the acumen, the insight that the Ayurvedic physician may have of someone, just like the gift that Krishna has given different people, the physicians have some gifts too. And so then they make their diagnosis. So the diagnosis of Narada is what we're going to hear at the beginning. Your mother was right. You should take shelter of the personality of Godhead in devotional service. So, achieve, is it something that determination alone can achieve, or you got to get a lot of mercy along with determination, and then you can receive that mercy, and with the mercy, the Lord. Or in a graphic image, is this little boy going to be able to pick up that big weight just because he's determined to do so? Or the little sparrow, it can't dry up the ocean, but with Garuda's help. So there's effort and there's mercy required. But he had superlative determination, Dhruva. So this section opens. Anukampaya. The sage Maitreya, so this is Maitreya speaking to Vidura. This whole canto and the earlier third parts of the third canto also. The great personality in Narada Muni, upon hearing the words of Dhruva Maharaj, became very anukampaya, very compassionate toward him. And in order to show his causeless mercy, he gave him the following expert advice. He's going to teach him the bhakti process for Satya Yuga. Dhruva was a child, so his demand was that of a playful child. Narada is the foremost of spiritual masters. Naturally, his only activity is to bestow the greatest benefit upon whomever he meets. So Dhruva wants a kingdom, and he's going to give him more than a kingdom because he's Narada. And the commentary says, compassion of a spiritual master, it goes way beyond our involvement in the modes. And his Kshatriya mode was a passionate mode. I want a kingdom. I want to get back. I want to show my stepmother, my father, and everybody else, I'm Dhruva. I'm going to get a kingdom. Very childish. Very determined. So Narada said, the instructions given by your mother Suniti to follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just suitable for you. You should therefore completely absorb yourself in the devotional service of the Lord. Now, here's a little thought. We find in the different yugas, there's principal means of achieving spiritual perfection. And it doesn't look like the devotional service that we do. So meditation, sacrifice, of course, deity worship, and the chanting of the holy name. But how does Ashtanga Yoga, the meditation system, how does it work its way into devotional service? Or the sacrifice process, how does it work its way into devotional service? Well, people, they have to have a qualified teacher, otherwise it doesn't. I've learned this from visiting different yoga studios here and in China. And some of the yoga studios promote themselves as teaching Ashtanga Yoga. And so that's the Satya Yuga process. There's no Vishnu. There's no Bhakti. It's, somebody learned from some teacher that's saying they're teaching Ashtanga Yoga. But here we're going to hear Narada explaining how Ashtanga Yoga connects with bhakti, or it's a form or manifestation of bhakti. It looks different than ours, but it's a Sat Yoga brand or version. Or in the earlier canto with Kapila Dev's teachings of Sankhya philosophy. When you hear Kapila, immediately you think Sankhya philosophy. So he taught Sankhya philosophy. What does that have to do with bhakti? Well, Sankhya philosophy, quickly, it's over here there's categories of matter, over here there's categories of spirit. We belong to the category of spirit. Next, there's the individual spirit and there's the Supreme Spirit. Next, you meditate upon the Supreme Spirit. Next, you engage in undivided devotional service to the Supreme Person. It goes from material to spiritual to Paramatma to Bhagavan realization, and you live a life of Bhagavan realization, although you may be engaged in meditation, and in discerning way noting it's in the category of spirit, not void or impersonal, and even not just Paramatma, but Bhagavan. Anyway, that's how it leads to perfection. And without devotional service to Bhagavan, it won't lead to perfection. It'll lead to something, but not to perfection. So one requires a qualified teacher to teach even the meditation process or the Ashtanga Yoga system. Therefore, completely absorb yourself in the devotional service of the Lord. Commentary says, Prabhupada, Dhruva Maharaj wanted a realm beyond Brahma's abode. Now there's a characterization of one universe, and in the inside of the universe, at the bottom of the universe, there's Anantashesh holding up the planets, the 14 planetary systems, topmost, Brahmaloka, and then there's the coverings of the universe, and on the other side of the coverings of the universe, there's the causal ocean, and the other side of the causal ocean is the Brahmajyoti, and he wanted that place that's in the Brahmajyoti, or something beyond, above Brahma. When Krishna offers anything, it is beyond the expectation of the devotee. What does the little boy understand about what's beyond Brahma? Or all of the things. It's very immature. And Narada knows that it's immature, but Narada is going to give him what he means to get what he wants in any case. Narada was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj, and he could have at once personally given whatever he wanted, but that is not the duty of the spiritual master. His duty is to engage the disciple in proper devotional service, as prescribed in the Shastras. Here's a nice image, Prabhupada, giving the means to achieve the perfection. Within the means to achieve the perfection is followed properly, perfection is the matured stage. So he gives the means. Narada continues, next verse. Any person who desires the fruits of the four principles, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, should engage himself in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for worship of his lotus feet yields the fulfillment of all these. Now this is an important Bhagavatam message, so it's right here in Narada's teachings to Dhruva. But many people take up not just Vedas, but any religious process with these things in mind. Dharma, Artha, Kama. There isn't really, within the Vedas there's a clear, within other teachings not so clear understanding what liberation is or salvation is. Generally, there isn't a clear idea, so it's attaining heaven. But that's, material elevation. It's not liberation. But that concept of liberation is clear within the Vedas. And then there's the fifth goal beyond the four, these four pictured here. So just worship Krishna and everything will be fulfilled. We know there's a similar verse in chapter 2. What's that verse in chapter 2 that we all know? Akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena jajeta purusham param. So whatever you want, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, or you have no desire, or you have all material desire, whatever it is, tivra bhakti. So Narada's confirming the same. Gave in very strong devotional service. So he's now going to describe the bhakti process for Satya Yuga. He gives them a place. Go to the bank of the Yamuna, where there is a virtuous forest named Madhuvan, and there be purified. My dear boy, in the waters of the Yamuna river, which is known as Kalindi, you should take 3 baths daily, because the water is very auspicious, sacred and clear. After bathing, you should perform the necessary regular principles of Ashtanga Yoga. He doesn't detail them. And then sit down on your asana or sitting place in a calm and quiet position. So he found a nice position up on top of the Dhruva hill. After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises. Doesn't detail them, they're mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, and go to yoga class, they'll teach you. And thus gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination, and with great patience, begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So those things that people learn in yoga class, then they call it Ashtanga Yoga, whoops, they got to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't teach that, unfortunately. Narada begins to describe details of this process and mentions Madhuvan, because this is Prabhupada, because it's the chief of all holy places. The photograph on the right side, that's the steps going up to today's Dhruva. And we saw the altar on Wednesday evening. Vishnu in the middle. On our right, or Vishnu's left, is little Dhruva, and over on the other side is Narada. That's on the main central altar. So now he describes the form of the Lord that he's to meditate on, and it's nice. The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. To the devotees who see him, he appears never to be displeased, and he is always prepared to award benedictions to them. His eyes his nicely decorated eyebrows, his raised nose, and his broad forehead are all very beautiful. He is more beautiful than all the demigods. So now comes a little exercise. It doesn't have a pink background, but I'll change it next time I do this. Just a reflection, actually. Think of an incident where you might have missed or neglected to fulfill an instruction or engage in spiritual practices. Recall how, despite the shortcoming, you felt unconditional acceptance by your spiritual guides or your spiritual master. So we may need the lights on for this because we're going to ask you to actually not only think about it, but write it down. Somebody back there can hit the light switch. Thank you. So take a few minutes. You messed up and you were still accepted by someone that's guiding you. And then the other question is, as you think back on that experience, what were your feelings? Or what are your feelings in the present moment about that experience where you felt unconditionally accepted? Hopefully you can think of one. Is there anyone here that needs paper, that doesn't have paper, or a handheld device and you can take notes in your handheld device? If you do, raise your hand if you need paper. Okay, we're good. Anyone need more time? Okay, we can go on. Now, where does this fit into our topic this evening? There's Dhruva and Dhruva's mother, and there's Narada and Dhruva, and portions of what his mother said he was able to accept, other portions he was not. Portions of what Narada was advising him he was able to accept, others not. So did Narada become displeased and, say, too bad for you because you've displeased me? Or did he connect with what? And then there's the Supreme Lord. How can the Supreme Lord be pleased with someone that when this Narada's giving good advice, instruction, and it's being acknowledged by the recipient, it's good instruction, and he doesn't do it? Is Lord Vishnu going to be pleased with such a person? Well, Narada, we went over that, but Narada heard from Dhruva, I accept your instruction, I accept you, everything is fantastic except my heart's broken, that doesn't stay in my heart. It's leaking all over the place. Good instruction, but I can't follow it. It doesn't touch my heart. Please give me an instruction I can follow. So he's now, they're connecting. And she didn't get an F on his exam. He got it. There was clarity how. So then Narada, being very expert, he knew how to help him achieve what he wanted and more than what he wanted. We read that little passage from earlier, Canto 5, Chapter 19, prayers by the residents of Jambudweep. And the residents of Jambudweep are saying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so wonderful. He doesn't give something that's going to entangle one in material complexity. But if he does in such a way they won't do it anymore. Because he gives his two lotus feet. He's very clever. Prabhupada, speaking on that verse, says, Krishna's thinking, I'm not such a fool. I'm not going to give them something that will entangle them in material complexity and they become covered by illusion. I'm not such a fool. But if I do give them, I'll give in such a way they'll become freed from that desire ever again, because I'll give them my two lotus feet. So that's what's going on here. Now comes the next question. How can we, you and me, become unconditionally accepting of others? Like our discussion earlier about discriminating, seeing this from that, but not judging. Because if you're going to be a helper, a friend, you don't judge. You have to see what's what, and you have to be a helper. And the helper ultimately is to, thank you, the helper brings one to remembrance of Krishna. That's what helpers do. That's what friends do. That's what parents do. That's what friends do. That's what spiritual masters do, if we're functioning properly. So how can one be unconditionally accepting? That is to say, not judging, but you discriminate, but you're not judging. You, to do that, have to be connected to Krishna. Because otherwise, you're going to do the other program. You're going to judge. You're not meeting my expectation. And my expectation is fill in the blank, and you're not meeting my expectation. There's something wrong with you. Fix yourself. Or whatever. So, any examples? Looking around the room, see if somebody wants to raise their hand and say some other examples of unconditional acceptance that you can think of from Scripture. Yes?
Accepted by Narada.
Very good. Did you hear what he said? Magari, the hunter? No, it was an interesting dialogue. It took a while to get him to the place where he was connected to Krishna. But he didn't oh, you're a horrible person. There was no judging. He just accepted him and took him from where he was to a good place. Narada was really good like that. King Chitraketu, Valmiki. I mean, Narada does this all the time in different ways. Anyone else? Yes? I can't hear you. Vibhishan by Lord Ramachandra. He was Ravana's brother. He was hanging out with Ravana. Ravana's a bad guy. So, but anyway, so that's a good one. Okay, so we'll move on. Next verse. He's just glorifying the beautiful form of Vishnu. The Lord's form is always youthful. Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, free from defect. His eyes and lips are pinkish, like the rising sun. He is always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul, and anyone so fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. The Lord is always worthy to be the master of the surrendered soul, for he is the ocean of mercy. Now, just a little sharing from this Ramayana absorption in the month of October. Of these 18 principles that Yamunacharya taught are within Ramayana, teaching the way of Sharanagati. One of them is this one: the qualification of one who is worthy of taking shelter. And that one of the 18 has 8 parts to it. It's like really detailed, very analytical. And so Vishnu, in the Ramayana it's Rama, or in our Gaudiya way it's Krishna, is the worthy person unto whom one should take shelter, and the spiritual master's function is to bring us to the lotus feet of Krishna, or in this case, Narada to Vishnu. It's a worthy place of shelter taking, for he is the ocean of mercy. The Lord is further described as having the mark of Srivatsa, or the sitting place of the goddess of fortune. And his bodily hue is deep bluish. The Lord is a person. He wears a garland of flowers, and he is eternally manifest with 4 hands, which hold conch, wheel, club, and lotus. The entire body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is decorated. He wears a valuable jeweled helmet, necklaces, and bracelets. His neck is adorned with the Kaustubha gem, a jewel, and he is dressed in yellow silk garments. We're getting, what scriptures tells us the details of the Lord's form like this. Fantastic. The Lord is decorated with small golden bells around his waist. This is Vishnu. And his lotus feet are decorated with golden ankle bells. All his bodily features are very attractive and pleasing to the eyes. He is always peaceful, calm, and quiet, and very pleasing to the eyes and the mind. That cow looks really contented. Moo. Then he gives the process, after visualizing, describing the form, how to meditate. Real yogis meditate upon the transcendental form of the Lord as he stands on the whirl of the lotus of their hearts. The jewel-like nails of his lotus feet glittering. The Lord is always smiling, and the devotee should constantly see the Lord in this form as he looks very mercifully toward the devotee. In this way, the meditator should look toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all benedictions. That yogi looks pretty absorbed. One who meditates in this way, concentrating the mind upon the always auspicious form of the Lord, is very soon freed from all material contamination, like wanting a big kingdom. And he does not come down from meditation upon the Lord. Entering into the lotus of the heart of the devotees by his 2 feet, which shine with jewel-like nails, he becomes situated in the jiva and his intelligence. So this is Vishwanath's translation of what Narada is teaching, and he explains, it's in yellow print here, Samarchatam. Samarchatam means of the devotee. Dishnyam means the place. And Atmani. Atmani means in the jiva, or in the intelligence of the jiva. He becomes situated there. This is the yogic process. Now, the bhakti yoga process, because this is devotional service, the methodology is not a Kali Yuga one, it's a Satya Yuga one, but the same principle applies. Consciousness absorbed. But yet it takes some discipline, it takes some practice, it takes some real determination, it takes some real faith. We cultivate those things in good association. Our primary means is hearing and chanting. But the hearing, just like we're doing now, the hearing and chanting, there's potencies in this message to become absorbed. more deeply in the meditation upon the personality of Godhead, so that he becomes situated in the jiva and in our intelligence. Then, not last, because there's going to be more after he gives the mantra, but how to use the mantra is also explained. O son of the king, now I shall speak unto you the mantra. This is his mantra diksha, which is to be chanted with this process of meditation. One who carefully chants this mantra for 7 nights can see the perfect human beings, the associates of the Lord, traveling in the sky. That's Satya Yuga. We have to chant a little bit longer than 7 days. Here it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 2 more times. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshiping Lord Krishna. One should install the physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs, exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. You're probably not going to have a big kitchen in the forest, so you have to use forest things that you offer. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, on this verse, the second one of these 2, here's his comment. It is understood from this shloka that teaching Vaishnava mantra with Om to persons without Upanayana, what happened? Without Upanayana is allowed. This supersedes the rule of giving such mantras only to those who have Upanayanam. Now, what does that mean for those that are not so familiar with this, the rules? The rule of giving such mantras only. So Upanayanam, it's a little technical, but Upanayanam is the procedure by Guru giving the Brahma Gayatri to, and other Gayatris, that's this other Om Gayatri mantras, to a child who is then approaches the study of the Vedas through mantra. Without the Upanayanam, they are not yet entitled to study the Vedas. So that's a rule. And so along with the Upanayanam comes other mantras, Vedic mantras. This is another thing that I learned in this October month of meditation on Ramayana, largely from assistance from Tamil translations into English of writings of the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. At the time in Sri Vaishnavism, along with the Gayatri mantra, the Brahma Gayatri mantra, there's 2 other mantras that are given at the time of Diksha. One of them is our Bhagavad Gita favorite, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharan. So teaching Sharanagati. And then there's another that comes directly within Ramayana, verses of Ramayana that teach the process of Sharanagati. We'll explain that another time. But so the main point here that Vishwanath is commenting is the Smarta Brahmana folks, they object because they haven't read Srimad Bhagavatam carefully, that Dhruva, or other Puranas also say, Dhruva was given this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra without Upanayana. That's a no-no, according to the Smarta folks. But here it is. Narada didn't give him Upanayana. He didn't give him a sacred thread. He didn't give him, the sanction to now study the Vedas. He just gave him this mantra and a whole process of Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti. So that's the significance here. So if you're ever asked about, sometimes people don't ask, they just like go off in a corner and grumble about why the Hare Krishna people are giving Vedic mantras to people they shouldn't be giving it to. It's right within this Dhruva story. Now, he was examined before the mantra came, but the mantra came. So his mantra was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now there's another important detail. This is Bhakti Siddhanta explaining that Vedic mantras have three parts. There's the bija part, that's the Om or some other bija mantra at the beginning. There's the Namaha, the offering of obeisances. And then there's the Sanskrit term is Narma, the obeisances unto whom. It has three parts. Bija, the obeisances, and the unto whom part. So that's in this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All three parts. It's a Vedic mantra. Like Om Namo Narayanaya. That's one of the mantras that Sri Vaishnavas receive. So it has those three parts, the Vedic mantra. And the Hare Krishna mantra doesn't have those three parts. So it's a mantra that anyone can chant. By rule, anyone can chant. You don't even have to give the mantra, just say chant and be happy, and here's your mantra card, start chanting. Because it's not in violation of a Vedic rule. It's a very merciful mantra. That's a detail. So Narada continues. Whoops, this is purport. Prabhupada. One should not artificially try to see the form of the Lord while chanting Hare Krishna. But when the chanting is performed offenselessly, that's what we're trying for, the Lord will automatically reveal himself to the view of the chanter. The chanter, therefore, has to concentrate on hearing the vibration, and without extra endeavor on the chanter's part, the Lord will automatically appear. Automatically. What does that mean, automatically? There's a little essay Burijan wrote on how do you take it that something automatically happens and the bhakti process is not automatic? It means it's of natural sequence, in due course of time by the Lord's will. So emphasis here is on hearing without offense. That'll help us overcome offenses if we're hearing. If you're not hearing, guaranteed you'll be making offense, even while chanting. So Prabhupada explains this principle. When an iron rod is made red hot, in a fire, it is no longer iron, it is fire. And similarly, in the purport of this verse, one should take consideration of time, place, and available conveniences. Sanatana Goswami says, Hari Bhakti Vilas, that as bell metal can turn to gold when mixed with mercury in a chemical process, so by the bona fide diksha or initiation method, anyone can become a Vaishnava. The photograph here is the Pandal program in Jaipur, where Mother Jamuna, in front of this big Pandal audience, is installing the deity. She's not only, chanting the mantra, she's performing the puja of the deity, which is, in some people's estimation, that's a no-no. Can't give ladies mantras and they can't worship deities. But now here comes further the very interesting, important instruction from Narada about the bhakti process. One should worship the Lord by offering pure water. This is the deity form. Pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, and vegetables, which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses, small buds of flowers, or even the skins of trees, and, if possible, by offering tulsi leaves, which are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Continuing, this is Narada instructing, right in this Canto 4. If possible, it is possible to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements, such as earth, water, pulp, wood, and metal. In the forest, one can make a form with no more than earth and water and worship him according to the above principles. A devotee who has full control over his life, over his self, should be very sober and peaceful and must be satisfied simply with eating whatever fruits and vegetables are available in the forest. Now, a nice example of this, making a deity of wood and earth, is in Krishna's pastimes when the gopis were worshipping Katyayani. It's explained. They were very simple village girls. They didn't have metal and wood deity. So they just took earth and water and fashioned the deity of Katyayani, and they worshipped Katyayani for a whole month. In the cold month of Magh, before the sun rose, and those of you that have been in Vrindavan in the winter month, at night, ooh, it's cold. And the river Jamuna, ooh, it's cold. So it's a vrata, Katyayani vrata, in the month of Magh. Before the sun rises, immersed up to their neck in the cold water for the purpose of getting a qualified husband. And so the deity they made was the deity of mud, because that's all they had. And it's authorized. And that Katyayani deity is explained is actually Yogamaya, because it's through the agency of Yogamaya that one gets Krishna. So that's what they were doing. My dear Dhruva, besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its different incarnations, as explained as established by his supreme will and personal potencies. Now, he's a little boy. He hasn't gone to school. He hasn't read the Bhagavatam, and he hasn't, he hasn't. But he's from a very elevated family line. We know this from his mother, Swayambhuva Manu, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather became perfect as worshippers of Krishna or Vishnu. Next, one should follow in the footsteps of the previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia, or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is none different from the mantra. So the simplest form is just this mantra meditation. But the deity worship form should be with proper rules and regulations. And in the purport here, Prabhupada makes mention, not in detail, of the story of the Brahmana. Now you know the story. It's shown in the painting here. More detail is found in Nectar Devotion. One poor Brahmana wanted very much to worship the personality of Godhead very opulently, but he didn't have opulence. And so he did that opulent worship in his mind. And, we're not so qualified to just do your deity worship in your mind. But he did. He had the qualification. So he went and gathered ingredients from here and there, and the nicest of ingredients, and he made offerings, and he was dressed the deity and garland the deity and ornaments of the deity and so forth and so on, and then cook for the deity and gather ingredients for the cooking, and it was very elaborate. And then one day, to test in his mind now, to test if the sweet rice had cooled enough to be offered to the deity, he put his finger in the sweet rice and it was still hot. So his finger burned. And then his meditation broke and he looked at his finger and it was burned. And as he was doing this, you see in the upper right-hand corner of the painting, there's a Vaikuntha Vimana descending, because Lord Vishnu was accepting his offerings, and Lord Vishnu was so pleased with his offerings, he was taking him back to Godhead for doing his puja in his mind. So it's authorized if you have the qualification. But if you have the facility to offer even forest things or simple things, that's recommended. Okay, so now, attentive hearing of the mantra while chanting is the same as worshiping the form of the deity, because the name and the person and the deity, they're all non-different. But deity worship is nice too. Anyone who thus engages in the devotional service of the Lord seriously and sincerely, with his mind, words, and body, and who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional methods, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. That's the small h, that's the worshipper's desire. This is Narada speaking. If a devotee desires material, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation from the material world, he is awarded these results. If one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. Almost done with this section. When Dhruva, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he was feeling so grateful. He is petitioning because he needs. His mother said, but mother didn't know the procedure. Narada knows the procedure. He's giving him the procedure. He's giving him everything to get what he wants. Because only Vishnu can give what he wants. Heart is filled with gratitude. He circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, offered him respectful obeisances, and started from Madhavan, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. Now, this is Satya Yuga, and Krishna appears in Vrindavan during Vaivasvata Manu 27th Yuga cycle, much later. So, Jiva Goswami explains, since this pastime took place during Swayambhuva Manvantar, though he, Krishna, in Vrindavan, appears much later in Vaivasvata Manvantar, Krishna's footprints are there because Mathura is eternal. Hari, in this verse, also refers to Krishna, since his presence is well known in Shruti. Since Krishna was the object of Dhruva's worship, being the deity of his 12-syllable mantra, that's Vasudevaya, he went there from elsewhere. So he came from Vaikuntha to appear before Dhruva. That's what he means. This is Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbhas. And that's the last text in this section. And tomorrow morning we're going to finish the chapter and then begin the first part of chapter 9. So we're still in chapter 8, and there's 12 chapters. But it goes quicker later on. This is very foundational instructions in the bhakti process. Let's turn the light on. Someone back there can please turn the light on. Very practical, valuable instruction. Although it's long ago, it's Satya Yuga. The principles involved are applicable today. And just even, the sound vibration, as we said in the very first evening, it's purifying just hearing. We need to extract the principles and become immersed in that purity of consciousness so we can understand in our personal lives how to apply these same principles, but become inspired in pursuit of pure devotion from the mixed devotion position. The elements are there. And we're in the mixed devotion position. And we're, in different degrees, we're determined to get to the goal. But the goal is identified. So we're ready to take some discussion topics you'd like to bring up. Yes.
We're discussing that negligence comes from weakness of heart. In Uttanapada's case, when
Yeah.
so, and then when we were discussing envy, you said we should be always satisfied. So, does dissatisfaction emerge from envy, or envy comes from dissatisfaction? Is there a relation like that?
Well, yeah, it may differ. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the eradication and the arising from both. It can differ in different persons. The starting point is turning our attention away from Krishna. That's the starting point. So you can say the starting point is dvesha, envy. Raga dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata. Raga, coveting, dvesha, envy towards Krishna. I want to enjoy, and Krishna's not in the picture.
So, where I'm going is, how do I recognize these things in my heart? So when I'm feeling dissatisfied, is it that it is envy? Can we say like that, or not for certain?
I want to be responsive to your question, and I don't understand your question. Say it again. What you're looking to is looking inside your own heart. How do I detect, or how do I get rid of some contamination?
Yeah, so
Which one?
Envy?
Envy. Take it for granted. It's there. Well, having a material body, Prabhupada's words, it's like a flag flapping in the wind. I have envy. We wouldn't get a body if there wasn't envy. It's there. It's in different degrees and so forth, and different ways of manifesting it and so forth, but it's there. It's a reasonable assumption. It's there. More?
Yeah, so when one is feeling dissatisfied, that's an indication of envious heart.
Well, not only dissatisfaction, the sum total of all negative emotion is arising from that. So let's say it differently than just focusing on the dissatisfaction. I want to enjoy, separate from Krishna. That brings us into this world of duality, where it's all illusion. There's neither happiness or distress. We want happiness, there's no happiness. Even the distress isn't real distress. It's all illusion. The real distress is being separated from Krishna. That's the real distress. It's not just somebody said something mean, or it's cold out, or I stubbed my toe, or something, a physical or mental discomfort. The happiness and distress, it's all illusion. It's not who we are. We're covered by illusion because of that initial mistake, misuse of free will, raga and dvesha. So now, specific to the disappointment, that's your question. That's just one of the many negative emotions that come from being in this world. Specific to disappointment, it's an expectation that's unmet. I may have an expectation of myself, or I may have an expectation of others, and it's not met. that disappointment. But that's just one of the many negative emotions that come along with the package of being in the material place of duality. Seeking happiness this way, that way, the other way. Finding unhappiness this way, that way, the other way. Disappointment is one of the unhappinesses.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's specific to expectations that are unmet. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sorry if I'm asking this question late, but this is referring to your class from this morning when you started.
No problem. We're open.
Okay. So when you started describing, Maharaj, the different dynasties or different people who are the lineage. Thank you.
The lineage. Yeah.
The lineage. So when from Brahma. So in case of anger, lust, irreligion, that lineage you mentioned that because there was an incest relationship. And please correct me if I'm wrong, and I heard it wrong. But at the same time, I saw on the next slide that incest relationship was even between Satrupa and Swayambhu Manu. But there the lineage was auspicious. So how do I understand this, Maharaj, and reconcile?
They were born, this is my understanding. They're not brother-sister exactly. They're husband-wife. Born in an adult feature directly from the body of Brahma to assist Brahma in his Prajapati program. He constructed the universe according to the instruction given to him with the potency to do so and the ingredients to do so and everything. Now he has to fill it up. So it's not brother-sister, but it's husband-wife to fulfill his purpose. Now over here is another purpose of Brahma, which is there's destructive forces in the universe. So he creates or manifests those destructive forces. He has the potency to do that too. It's because it's part of creation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I like the concept of the unconditional acceptance by the mercy. So, in case of Mrigari or in case of even Vibhishan, right? So, and I believe that when we got into Krishna conscious also, it is like unconditional acceptance by the mercy of us. But then the challenge that I see is there is an unconditional acceptance, but either I'm lacking the endeavor or I don't know what, but the progress is not as much as we aspire for.
Yeah, that's right. Well, aspire for. You hit it, endeavor. Prayasa, this is the language of our acharyas. There's prayasa. It's the language used to it's specific to Mother Jasoda's binding of Krishna. It's a leela that demonstrates how we can be successful in spiritual life. She's endeavoring and prayasa. Not over-endeavoring, but endeavoring. And she's very determined. It's not being successful. Then Krishna displays his Kripa Shakti, then it becomes successful. So it's not like Krishna doesn't want to be merciful to Mother Jasoda, but he's strengthening her, it's a reciprocation with her. So for us, the shortcoming is not the sun isn't shining. The shortcoming is there's clouds in the sky, or it's night, or we have our eyes closed. We don't see the sun. So what to do? You strengthen the sense of purpose. It's a little bit like, where is she? Shruti still here? Young devotee here saying, I find myself becoming complacent when, there's difficulty. So my reply was, be very clear what you want. So what you want can then not result in complacency. So Dhruva wanted a kingdom. He wasn't complacent at all. So what do we want? And later he got his kingdom, but he's going, oh, why did I want that stupid kingdom? There was great regret for that stupid motivation. So, we can be thoughtful about what our motivations are, but we should also be honest with what's important to us. Now, our present condition is we're mixed, and so there's material things that are important to us. So we place those material things before Krishna. Sarvakama. Not so much akama, but mixed. And then align ourselves over time with this higher principle. Everything for Krishna. So even the sakama that should be dedicated to Krishna's satisfaction. Your career, your family, your book distribution, and the things that you do for Krishna's pleasure. And the struggle is, the me pocket is pretty big. It's like I want my satisfaction with my family, my career, and my book distribution, and my this and my that. So that's where the struggle is. To come to the unmixed, even to the medium of, involving ourselves with the material energy. Our results orientation, I am the doer orientation, the world is meant for my enjoyment orientation. Me at the center.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have a question from your second class, and today I have just a clarification question. So the first question is, you were talking about fault finding. So my thinking is, if we do not find fault, how can we ever move towards reformation? It's
You're
like
speaking within yourself?
Okay, let me...
Or with others?
With others.
Easy. The mood of service is how? The distinction from this morning was discerning, yes, fault finding, no. Remember the context of Haridas Pandit. He could see what's what, but he didn't engage himself in fault finding, nor would he allow people to come and fault find in his presence. They knew that, you don't talk about people's faults in front of Haridas. He wouldn't hear it. They wouldn't even think of speaking like that. He could see. So the Reformation was his purity. Now, for you and me and other people that are in Haridas Pandit, we may want a strategy of, in the mood of service, bringing about reformation. That's not fault finding.
But in the meantime, that person can cause a lot of hurt to other...
Well, that happens. Bhakti Siddhanta says, reform yourself. Become a pure devotee. So how can you be a reformer unless there's purity? Purity is the force. So make that your first business. That's the teaching of our acharyas. Doesn't mean do nothing. I have to wait till I'm a pure devotee before I can do something. That could be a long wait. But in the mood of service.
So in the mood of service, we can detect a particular fault and observe a particular fault.
Not in the mood of service. The power, it's intellect. The power of discrimination sees what's what.
Mhm.
And then in the mood of service is how do I engage that?
Mhm.
Discernment.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, let's take your lovely daughter, for example. You know, she's a lovely daughter, and she has qualities and faults. And you know, so you're the parent. It's your duty. It's a rightful position to do so. You want to reform or correct, or you know, so you have to see what's what, but you also understand her and gently help her make the situation where she can make choices, because she's the kind of person, she's going to make her choices. And she'll make sure that you know, I'm going to make my choices. And you're the one that I'm going to make sure that you don't fall off the cliff. I'm going to protect you. Anyway, so, in the mood of service.
Mm-hmm.
And you would like her to take up the choices that she wants to make on her own terms in the mood of service to Krishna.
Mm.
Then your parenting is successful. And she'll grow up being one who makes decisions as an adult that's for the pleasure of Krishna. And she's making the choices. Because that's the kind of personality she is.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question is more about clarification from this presentation. So I was trying to understand the key difference between the meditation process that is offered by Narada Muni to Dhruva Maharaj and the mantra meditation process that we practice. So in our case, when we chant, the idea is that our consciousness is meant to go to hearing the sound vibration, and then from there, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, the progressive manifestation of the form and the activities of the Supreme Lord. But here, in this case, Narad Muni is advising Dhruva Maharaj to not only chant the mantra, but also visualize the form of the Supreme Lord. Is my understanding correct that that's the key difference?
I'm not clear about what you said. I'm not clear that that's what Narada said. What you said is what Narada said. So I am having a problem responding to your question. I'd like, before I say, put my foot in my mouth, I'd like to go back and read it more carefully and read the commentary of the Acharyas to see if what you said, that's what Narada said, is what Narada said.
Okay, Guru Maharaj.
Okay? All the way in the back?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, this is related to the previous session. The formula you have given, Maharaj, in one of the slide is from acceptance, then we get humility,
Yeah.
from humility we'll get courage, and courage to determination.
You like that one?
Yes, Maharaj. So after the session we were discussing and we were trying to understand that, how we can understand practically that.
Good.
For example, if somebody has a determination that, yes, I want to wake up in the morning, early morning and chant. Now how we can...
Early morning at 10?
Chant.
And chant. Oh,
Yes.
okay, great, thanks.
So, how we can understand that? By accepting, we can reach to that determination.
Well, accepting is not accepting I want to wake up early and chant. Accepting has to do with this is where I am. I'm not yet waking up early and beginning my chanting early. That's the accepting. Now, there's a goal. You can establish a goal for yourself. That's, I suppose, another kind of accepting. But it's, I'm not at where the goal is. That's the accepting. That's the humility part. Now, with humility, I need help. I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. I mean, there's some steps missing. That with that humility says I'm reaching out, like a child does to their parent. So we can reach out for some strength greater than our strength. Descending mercy from our spiritual master, from our guides, from our counselors, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from our deity, and we're doing this. And that gives us courage. That's a further expansion of humility. It opens the heart for descending mercy, and then we feel courage. Now, in that context, does that address your question?
Yes, Maharaj. And just if you can explain more about the courage, because in the mind, courage means you expand yourself and go and face things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I alone need help. That's part of my confidence to go out and face things. I'm not alone. If I'm alone and I'm feeling courageous, it's a bluff. It's a macho thing.
Yeah.
No fear. It's a bluff.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
So sustainable courage is where there's strength beyond my own strength. Descending mercy strength.
Yes, Maharaj.
That's courage. And that comes when one is humble. When one is humble, no fear. I have courage. It's foolish and it's a bluff.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
I'm thinking of Stalin. Prabhupada told the story of Stalin. I mean, I'm not a historian, but Prabhupada said something. He had to have an operation, and they were prepared to give him anesthesia, and he said, no, I want to watch the operation. He was really stoic. He could endure pain and not flinch. No, so he had a certain kind of courage. But that courage was ignorance. I mean, with all of what he did, etc., 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 that's not what real courage is. That's an illusion.
Yes.
Or Napoleon, or some.
Yes.
Vive la France. So,
Yes,
okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. And Maharaj,
Yes.
one more question about, if it is okay, for today's slide on verse 50, there was a sentence, Lord is situated in the jiva and his intelligence.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Yes, Maharaj. So,
That was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's parsing of that term. So you want to hear some more about it?
yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
Well, in the jiva, my understanding of that rendering is the soul itself. And then in the intelligence is, the bestowing of buddhi that comes from Krishna to the jiva. And Krishna is present in that intelligence, and Krishna is present in the soul. When mature stage of concentrating upon the mind, concentrating upon Krishna. This is a little bit like this discussion earlier today about, Upananda was asking about, where does suffering take place, and it's in the mind. But so, anyway, intelligence, buddhi, Krishna's there. The soul, Krishna's there. He's situated there. This is like courage. We're not alone. Though it's notional, but then to experience it, that's very powerful. In the bhakti process, to bring the mind to Krishna, one feels it. Like the iron that becomes hot. It feels hot. You feel it. Like this exercise, when you felt some special mercy coming into your life. We've all had that. We wouldn't be here if we haven't had that. It's not just me, it's something divine being bestowed upon for just mercy. We need that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Looking on the ladies' side to see if there's anyone over here on this side have some question? Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. My question is you mentioned that Vedic mantra has 3 parts, like the Bija part and to whom the worship is on to, like these 3 parts.
Yes, it has 3 parts, yes.
3 parts, but our Hare Krishna Mahamantra doesn't have those
That's correct. It's a Pancha Trika mantra, it's not a Vaidika mantra. It's a mantra.
Okay.
In a different category of mantra, a very merciful mantra.
Okay. It doesn't mean that it is not Vedic.
Yes, it doesn't mean that it's not Vedic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
It's just, it's technical. It's like, there are 2 different Laukika and Alaukika Sanskrit. Bhagavad Gita is in this other, and Laukika, loka means here. That is Alaukika. That's where the 4 Vedas are in that Sanskrit, and there's all kinds of rules and stuff. And then there's very simple Sanskrit, which the Bhagavad Gita is in. So the puffy-wuffy scholars say, it's not Vedic, because it doesn't follow all these rules and stuff. But it's Vedic. It's from Narayana. It's from Krishna. It's Vedic. And the Mahamantras has, in that sense, is as Vedic as the other mantras are. But they're just different rules, like with this different Laukika and Laukika Sanskrit.
Yes, Maharaj. I got it. This is still Shastric, so we follow. That's the reason.
Yeah. Yes, it's Shastric, so we follow.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Back here, there's someone.
Maharaj, you mentioned that we should not have expectations from others. But what if others have expectations from me and I am not able to meet their preconceived expectations, and then the other person is frustrated with me? So how to deal with the reverse situation?
I'm thinking of your daughter. That's husband, wife, by the way. She has her expectations. Then there's other people that have their expectations too. And when you're unable to meet other people's expectations, you smile. And it depends upon the relationship and the maturity of the other individual, how much explaining you do. But you smile. That, inside and outside. You may have some other external countenance, like you're taking their frustration with you to heart. You're acknowledging their feelings. They're feeling disappointed in you because they had an expectation that you didn't meet. So your body language can be consistent with what their feeling is. But you can then choose how you're going to respond to their expectation that wasn't met. Now, if your happiness is making sure that the expectations of others directed towards you are always met, you'll go nuts. And you'll not be you. You'll be abandoning yourself. You have to be true to yourself. So, response can be depending upon the relationship and the person and the time, place, circumstance. Knowing who you are on a deeper level is really important in understanding what's the proper response. Otherwise, it's just a struggle, endless struggle. Don't know who you are. It's an endless struggle. Anyone else? Are we done? Where? I don't see. Oh, way over there, Madhupati. Wow. Hurry, run. You're not running.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the earlier slide, probably in the morning, I read, the Supreme Lord sent Narada Muni to assist Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes.
I'm trying to reconcile now. Dhruva Maharaj at that time was situated in mixed devotion or more materialistic desire.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out how it attracted the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Is that past Sukruti or?
Well, we don't know what his past life was. I don't know what his past life was. I've not read anything that says what his past life was. So it's hard to say, is that the cause? But whether that's the cause or not the cause, he, Dhruva, accepted the advice of his mother. And he was fixed on, this is the means to get what I want. I trust my mother. Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, is the only means to get what I want.
Okay.
The kingdom thing. So he was fixed. So because of the desire to get connected with Vishnu, Vishnu sent Narada.
Okay.
Now, there may have been other factors besides his mother's instruction, and he trusted his mother, who was fully trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
There may be other factors, but that's for sure one of them. Because it said he deliberated. I'm ready. That's the means to get what I want. Mixed. Vishnu.
Going back, that akama, sarva kama, moksha kama, daradit. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a product of her mercy. Now, whatever else his previous life was, and he's a product of her mercy. Or his bhakti, let's say. Someone? Raise your hand again, so, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When Narada was giving his first instruction, at that time, Dhruva Maharaj was saying he could not take it because he was in ignorance.
He said three things, but that was one of them.
That was one of them. But was he not also in passion? That
Of course.
so then why he was emphasizing just ignorance?
Oh, you have to ask him. He said, I'm a Kshatriya. And Kshatriya means passion, so he did say. But, you know, and I'm identifying with being a Kshatriya, which he isn't, so that's ignorance. How's that? He mentioned both. Okay, it's 8:15. Thank you all for joining. I'm finding my appreciation for this group, the discussion is really thoughtful. I hope you're all feeling inspired as I am by the nice discussion, this interaction part. But, you know, for me, it's just taking the message to another level of, this is really wonderful. It's so cleansing to the heart. And then it's almost like, I can't, you know, what's going to happen when this is over? The dirty stuff is going to come back in again. But so it's just that there's a potency, a cleansing potency in what we're doing. It's the Srimad Bhagavatam's mercy. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtuki. The unwanted things in the heart become cleansed just by this hearing. The hearing is itself a service, and it's meant to guide the rest of the service that we do in our lives. I'm really liking what we're doing. Really like it. And thank you all for coming and making it an enlivening, more enlivening experience. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.